America is widely known as a melting pot for many of the world's largest cultures, many of which arriving in the country from varying immigrants all over the planet. And though some of these cultures showed through in our society more than others, one in particular has begun to take the country by storm relatively quickly. East Asian culture, one which had been almost absent in the US prior to mass immigration post-World War II, and almost entirely absent prior to the 1850s Californian gold rush, has become one of the most prominent cultures today in a short span of around 30 years. Despite the sudden boom, it built up quite slowly, with the mid to late 1910s showing the first signs of more widespread influence. Around this period, Chinese immigrants created dishes such as sweet and sour pork and chop suey to appeal to American tastes, while still keeping a slice of authenticity, though not much. From here, the advancement of Asian culture in the US grew stagnant, only advancing further as more immigrants entered the country post-World War II. While certain regions showed much more cultural influence, such as religions and practices, it was extremely localized and almost unknown to the general public. Asian culture showed advancement after this, but mostly in these same regions and areas with the higher Asian populations from immigration. Then, as we approach the 1990s, something interesting happens. Asian media starts gaining traction, but more specifically, East Asian animation. Shortly after this, and very early into the 2010s, Korean pop also started making a scene, with BTS's debut album coming out in 2013, and of course, what really jump-started the genre in the US, Gangnam Style, coming out in 2012. Wow, what a cultural impact that was. But during all of this, something gradually became more and more popular all across the country: real, authentic Asian foods. And while it may have started with something such as orange chicken and sweet and sour pork, which are not entirely authentic, as Asian culture became more and more common in the US, real Asian foods such as ramen, pho, and sushi became more popular. And the popularity of these foods is only growing more and more, especially with ramen and sushi being some of the most popular foods in newer generations. Even less known foods such as pad thai, kimchi, yakisoba, and hot pot are becoming more popular day by day. These foods that were once seen as something rare or a delicacy are even easier to find, such as sushi, which you can even get on campus. Hibachi and Korean barbecue are almost as popular as the classic American steakhouse when it comes to celebrations as well. Even hot pot is seen as somewhat of an activity for friends and family rather than just a meal. And while these things may all seem unrelated to the topic, they truly show how Asian culture, especially in food, has become ever more a part of the everyday lives of a lot of Americans. The rise in popularity of Asian foods has followed along the same path as the growth that these cultures have gone through in the US. Of course, though, food and Asian media are just the beginning of this popularization. Asian cultures have even found themselves more and more present in American media, and Asian media is finding itself more and more viewed through American platforms. Last year alone, Shang-Chi, a movie heavily inspired by Chinese culture and the martial arts, was one of the biggest box office successes of the year. Not only that, but the show Squid Game, a South Korean episodic thriller created by Netflix, found itself to be one of the most viewed shows in the platform's history in less than 6 months. Even Asian actors such as Jackie Chan are beloved in the US. This all shows that these cultures have done more than influence Americans, they've almost created somewhat of an obsession with them. Every day, the popularity of these foods, this music, these shows and movies, they all influence at least someone to take a peek behind the curtain and learn more about these cultures. And that's exactly how they spread and flourish. And for that exact reason, I believe this is only the beginning of this phenomenon. Asian religions such as Islam and Buddhism are practiced more in the US every year. More and more people annually celebrate holidays such as Ramadan and the Chinese New Year, and even more people are taking an interest in all of these different types of lifestyles, media, foods, and people. The point of all of this is that we are in the middle of an amazing phenomenon. That being the boom of a variety of Asian cultures that have been overshadowed in the US for many years. We are truly in a golden age of learning and growth, and I don't envision it ending anytime soon.